afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session from the IAB Europe, which is titled When Two Worlds Collide, Digital and TV, as you can see. We're going to start off with a presentation from Emmanuel Josserand, who heads up Industry Relations Agency and Brand Relations at FreeWheel. He's going to give us a sneak preview of a white paper that is coming out from the IAB tomorrow, which is all about connected TV. So please join me in welcoming Emmanuel.
That working? Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. So I'm conscious that I'm standing between you and drinks, so we make it this short and sweet. So my name is Emmanuel Josserand. I run a brand agency and industry relation at FreeWheel. I'm also running the FreeWheel Council for Premium Video, and I'm a member of the IAB Europe Programmatic Trading Committee. So in this capacity that I'm standing here tonight, just to present the latest paper from the IAB Europe on connected TV. So I'm going to pass on the the consumer changing habits. I think we've heard that, and we're all aware of this. So I'm going to start and dive straight in and start with a definition and answer that question: what is connected TV? There's been a lot of debate around what connected TV is and is not, and its relation with smart TV and OTT. I think there's been a lot of confusion in the market on this. So the IAB Europe came up with that definition, that is any TV that can be connected to the internet and access content beyond what is available via the normal offering from a telco or cable provider. So this includes smart TVs and connected television through streaming media devices such as Roku or Chromecast, game console, and set-top box when these are connected to the internet and allow access to third-party OTT apps. So to clarify, smart TV is part of the connected TV universe, and connected TV is a subset of OTT, where OTT includes mobile devices. So let's look at the status of connected TV around Europe. Adoption varies widely across the different countries, and it's dependent on several variables, such as obviously consumer understanding of connected TV, the broadband speed and penetration, and obviously the availability of free-to-air. Something that is across Europe is connected TV is currently a very much urban phenomenon. So I pick a few examples here where, starting with Spain, there is a very high broadband penetration. The audiences are well aware of connected TV, and there is a very strong demand from advertisers and the agencies. In fact, that is actually outpacing the current availability of inventory. On the other hand, Italy, for instance, there's a very strong free-to-air dominance that has limited consumer adoption of connected viewing. If you look at France, this is a very much IPTV dominated country that is kind of slowing down the acceptance of connected TV or the adoption of connected TV. But I mean, there's a good understanding from the consumer, and there's a strong awareness. There's also the advertisers are very keen to deploy data-driven programmatic advertising on TV sets. And finally, the UK, which is probably one of the most advanced country in Europe with a very high household high-speed broadband penetration, and there is a very strong, it's coupled with a very strong device penetration and a widespread understanding from the audience of connected devices. In fact, some analysts suggest that about 69% of UK households already have a TV set that is connected and enable access to broadband delivered VOD services. So why is there so much excitement around connected TV? If we go back to the title of the presentation, it's pretty much where TV and digital are sort of colliding or converging. And the rise of connected TV household provides advertisers with opportunity to bridge the linear excellence with the digital promise of personalization at scale. In fact, it brings the best of linear with the lean back, sort of high engaged audiences, very high completion rate and viewability, with the best of digital and its targeting and obviously measurement capabilities. So while connected TV brings a lot of opportunities, there's also a number of challenges. I suppose these will be addressed by the panelists later on, but I thought I'd give just an overview of some of those opportunities and challenges. So I'll start with, from a challenge perspective, first is the issue of scale. And connected TV is still in its infancy. It does not yet provide the scale that some brands are looking for. There is often the perception that because connected TV is delivered on a TV set, it is like linear advertising. And while from a consumer perspective, it's very similar, the audiences are nowhere near what linear broadcast can deliver. It's also complex, and the ad inventory pool is extremely fragmented, and it makes it very difficult for the media buyers to navigate. And in fact, the issue of scale and fragmentation brings another issue, which is frequency capping. And very often, to deliver on the advertiser expectations, there's often you're going to have multiple times the same ad. It's going to go repeatedly. And the final one is measurement. I think that's probably the biggest hinder to way of sort of retaining sort of investment in the medium. Why? Because there is no sort of, on one side, connected TV is not accounted in the same way as linear TV, so there's no equivalency to the linear GRPs. And on the other side, while connected TV is a IP-connected device, it does not allow third-party measurement script. And that was to prevent risk associated with the viewer experience. So we got so the viewability measurement tag do not actually work currently on connected TV. So there are solutions around this, particularly for the metrics around viewability and completion rates. So I just wanted to share this research we've done last year, and it shows the high completion rate by platform, and it shows how OTT perform extremely high compared to other platforms. Now, moving on to some of the opportunity. So first, obviously, is personalization. While connected TV is still nascent, it brings vast opportunity in terms of targeting and personalization. Reaching new audiences, we know that the traditional TV is under a lot of pressure. And connected TV brings the hope of a sort of a much needed changes and potential access to those younger viewers and cord cutters. And finally, the rise in connected households. In fact, it's part of the issue here on scale, but it also, we've seen, and don't know if you were there this morning, but we saw the rise in penetration of smart TV and streaming devices across Europe is growing extremely fast. So while the scale is not there yet, I think that's just a matter of time before it gets there. So, well, I'll put that here, but I would say as audiences are sort of continue to watch TV, but are sort of changing their habits and to incorporate sort of more mobile, more connected television, catch-up, etc. The demand from the advertiser to reach those audiences more effectively and more efficiently is going to continue to grow. And there is very much an opportunity for broadcaster and I would say the ecosystem, the wider ecosystem, to embrace the opportunity that provides connected TV. In fact, I just wanted to share this slide that shows, by TrueOptic, that shows the sort of awareness and the increasing investment that advertisers are prepared to make in the next few years. Caveat to this, it's the US numbers. But we saw that in the next couple of years, investment would grow by at least 2 to 2.5 times what they are today. And that was corroborated by another research that was done by MTM for SpotX, and that looks at the estimated value of connected TV advertising across the various countries in Europe. And I think the number just speak for themselves. So clearly, we're just starting a new chapter in TV and digital convergence. And I will probably let the panelists to discuss. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much, Manu. So now I'd like to invite my panel of experts to the stage. I can tell you, so I'm Joanna from SpotX, and we have Brandon Keenen, who has a global role as Senior Digital Commercial Director at CNN Commercial, International Commercial. We have Raquel Melero, forgive the pronunciation, from Atresmedia. She's the Audience, Ads and Programmatic Manager at Atresmedia, which is the leading media group in Spain. Martin O'Boyle is Managing Director of Partnerships for the Publicis Media Exchange, which is the trading and investment practice of Publicis, and he's here in the UK, an expert in data, connected television, and has a 20-year career in TV buying before this. And Malin Hager from Sweden, she's the Commercial Director of TV4 in Sweden, which is owned by Bonnier Broadcasting, and she's also the chair of EGTA, the sales house, the industry body for sales houses in Europe. So please join me in welcoming the panel. So the white paper highlights some pretty interesting thoughts about connected TV, but do we need connected TV? Maybe a lot of what we've heard today is about the prominence of digital advertising. This session is organised by the IAB Europe. Brandon, we worked together more than a decade ago at AOL.
Yes.
I think you're a digital guy at heart. Maybe we should just go straight to digital.
Straight to digital. I'll challenge you. I don't know if the word digital and TV are now getting a bit confusing, right? With TV, what does that mean? So I like to think of it as a cross-platform guy now.
Okay.
How's that work?
That's good. So if you're a cross-platform guy, what does that mean? That every campaign should be cross-platform?
A good portion of them should be cross-platform. It depends on what advertisers are trying to do. So from an advertising standpoint, if they're thinking about reaching audiences and engaging in the right platform, then you have to kind of look at everything holistically. You know, creating incredible content and then making sure it gets to where they want. And TV's part of that. Digital's part of that. Digital and TV are the same and different, right?
So digital and TV together. So Sam Taylor earlier on today, he was talking about the brand budget that he has, a brand and performance budget. And he says that he's spending about 60% on brand, 40% on performance.
Right.
So would you put 60% on TV and 40% on digital?
Ooh, I don't know if I'd follow just a strict rule. And I think, I read a ComScore study once that showed awareness campaigns also drive intent. Right, so thinking about if you focus too much on this kind of lower funnel, and there was another campaign or talk at the other room about programmatic kind of hitting a saturation point. And I think you have to find that spot where you can still get awareness, drive intent, and TV still does that. It's still one of the top ways to drive brand and drive brand value. And you can still drive brand value through performance through digital. So it really is about thinking about that funnel, thinking about what you're really trying to do, and then kind of being smart about it and not just working on one or the other in a silo.
Okay, so a combination. Martin.
Collision.
A collision?
That's
the title. Okay, a collision. Martin,
So-
you're working with brands.
Yep.
What do they want from you?
So, simply put, really, advertisers are looking for effective brand advertising. They want to know if they spend their money here or there, what effect it's going to have on their business outcomes. That's sort of simply put. And in terms of TV, digital, however, there's many ways of defining them both. And I personally don't really look at it as TV and digital. I just look at it as what's the consumer experience. So, consumer watching a telly screen, for example, they may get a linear ad, which is what we in the UK traditionally call TV advertising, but they may be getting an internet-served ad through a video platform, maybe from the TV broadcaster, maybe from the new players. Now, that is creating an ever more complex world, and from an agency point of view, we are there to help our advertisers navigate through that, but also trying to help them make the right choices. So in terms of if we were going to do a TV campaign or a campaign, and should it be 60% TV, 40% digital, do you know what's lacking? And it's been said a few times in a number of seminars so far today, is there is this unified data that doesn't exist in the UK, definitely doesn't exist in the UK. And so therefore, we are having to work with our advertisers and our partners to try and fill those gaps to get to the most effective campaign. What I would say, though, is just because we don't have the data doesn't mean we shouldn't do advertising across, for example, the whole TV screen, because we do know that audiences are migrating away from what we call linear TV. They're migrating to a more on-demand service, particularly younger audiences. Doesn't mean they're watching less TV broadcaster content. Actually, they're probably watching more. So what we've got to do is work with them to try and understand the true value, and then push our partners and push the industry and work together as an industry. So that's agencies as well. It's not just the responsibility of everybody else to do this, to try and get to this unified view of the consumer. And I don't think it's impossible, but I think if you look at the keynote session earlier today, there was a really good example of how Sky and ITV are unable to work together in addressable advertising because of commercial reasons. And I think that's a commercial reality that we have to accept. And rather than saying, well, it's just on you to do that, what are the other ways that we can do this? So, yeah, it's a massively complex area, and I think we have to work together to try and navigate it.
Okay, so one of the areas that I think you mean when it comes to complexity is around measurement, and you haven't got the data on the measurement statistics that you need to help you understand who's watching. Okay, so luckily we have two countries on this stage who have really innovated in the measurement area. Would you like to tell us, Raquel, about the situation in Spain, please?
In Spain, we have a really good measurement for linear TV, and I must say that even if it's not like the perfect model that we would like to have, because it's always an improvement on that, in fact, it's really good, and it has been trusted and is validated by the whole market, which is one thing that, for example, in digital, we don't have at all. So that's the big problem that we face when we want to think on television, on connected TV in the same way that we think on linear, because it's not the same, okay? So on linear, we are happy. It's trust. Advertisers know what they are buying. So you cannot compare with the digital area. So, but that's what we need to move on the market, because it would be really interesting to work on a cross-device system, so you will be able to really measure where the user is in the consumption of the content, on your own content, and also to know how to really efficiently impact on each moment of their consume. But that's the difficult thing. So maybe once the television, linear, or on VOD, it's everything on digital, maybe we can measure it.
Aha.
What's the point?
Which leads me on to Malin from Sweden, where you have really innovated in the area of measurement. Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah,
please?
we've been talking about it earlier today, but we have sort of a total currency now. It's still not sort of totally accepted on the market, but we are getting there, and it's moving quite fast. But I think the biggest problem for us is that what if the biggest trend at the moment is ad-free content, for example, Netflix or other services that cost as less as 2 takeaway letters per month. How many years will it take before we have half the inventory or a quarter of the inventory? And how should we sort of approach to that sort of? And I think the difficulty or the problems with both data and digital options is who should take responsibility for the ad environment and the total sort of experience that the viewers are getting. I think that's the biggest question for us, and we don't really talk about it.
Okay, so who do you think should take responsibility?
Yeah, the TV station is living on it, so I mean, we can try to take responsibility, but we need your help and the client's help, so we can do it together. But we need to be really sort of, I'm quite stressed about the slowness of the market. We need to move so much faster, I think.
So you think that the television industry doing a lot of talking but needs to move faster because of the threat of SVOD?
Because of the possibilities that the viewer have now that they didn't have years ago. And it's going so fast, and the behavior is changing quite rapidly. So we have to understand what the change means for us, because it's no question. People love the content that we provide or that we produce, but how should they consume it, and how should we provide it, and how should we sort of package it up to make it accessible and also likable in the future? I think that the change of behavior is really inflecting on us.
Yeah, so Lindsay Yacarino was saying earlier that there's been a change in measurement, a change in consumer behaviour with television, and a change in consumer behaviour with everything these days is different from how we used to approach it 10 years ago. So, but interestingly, in your region, I think SVOD services are very popular, with average person having 3 SVOD services per household. But then also AVOD is popular in Sweden and all across the Nordics.
Yeah.
And so do you think consumers then understand the idea of they can pay more to have no advertising, or pay less and still have the content with, is that value exchange understood better in the Nordics than perhaps in other countries?
Yeah, we are the country of a tradition with piracy, as you know. Everything on the internet is for free. So we have been struggling a bit, but now I think there's a bit of acceptance that you should pay either with Swedish crowns or time, even though it might not be as far as we would like to have it.
Okay.
So sorry to interrupt, but couldn't we say, like, at some point we may not be able to measure everything, right? And I'm not sure if behavior's totally changed. Behavior's adapted to the choices that we have. And like, so when I grew up, to age myself, I used to go to Blockbuster Video and rent a whole bunch of videos for the weekend. And marketers would never know that happened. Barb wouldn't know that. So we're still consuming content in other ways, but as marketers, we're trying to still kind of capture all this data, right? So how do we have to at least make an assumption that it will never be all connected, and there's going to be leaps that we have to take. And so, but it is about, I mean, you can still measure awareness, favorability, and intent outside of having like hardcore data, right? Which is still kind of a problem with social. So we may have to just accept that. And some of these things are helping and getting better, but there's still going to be an element of just create great stuff, and brands will have a way to get there. I know there's maybe some debate there, I don't know.
And is it an issue of demographics?
Well, the newer generations are definitely tuning in different ways, right? But the 30 to 55 is still pretty strong, is very strong on TV. And that's not going to change for a while. So I think the new demographics are changing, are getting more choice. right? So
But is that really true? Because I think my mother-in-law, she's 87, and she's a hardcore S-Wood consumer.
That's it, yeah.
So I think
I agree
that's,
on that.
yeah, it's true, but it's also false. I mean, if the
it is
possibility
true and
there,
false, but right.
and it's
My dad
easy
watches
to
linear
access.
all day, so I
Yeah.
don't know. You know,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
would you have taken an Uber in the 70s? You would have if it was there. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have a different behavior. If the availability was there, you might have taken it. So
That's
I don't know. Just
I
maybe
guess
it's a
that
dumb
that's only
point.
that the users has the option, so they
Right.
love to have the options. That's where we need to be. I mean, it's like adaptation. We need to evolutionate, so we cannot be there. I mean, it was something that Darwin used to say, right? It's like, it's not the biggest who survive, are those who are best adapted to the new situation. So TV is really big, but we need to move on, as Joanna was saying.
And so moving on for you, Raquel, is that connected TV or is it making television available on mobile phones as well? How do you, I think Spain is one of the biggest TV watching nations in Europe. So
Yes.
people watch more hours of TV there than in many other countries across Europe.
I think it's almost nearly 4 hours per individual. And in fact, for younger population, they are consuming around 100 minutes of television, which is quite a lot. So it's also linear, it's on the VOD. What they want to have is the option. And I guess that's part of the millennial way of life, or the new generations, that they want to have options. They want to swap. They cannot be staying as we were, or maybe my parents were staying on the TV watching. So we need to give them the offer. We need to follow them wherever they are. We need to offer our content on the mobile, on the tablets, and if it's on TV via an app, we need to offer them via an app, or I don't know. It's like they want to be. The other day when I was coming here from Madrid, I was watching two German guys watching a concert on a Starbucks in the airport, which was quite weird. But that's the way that youngsters act. In fact, it's the way that we also act, because we want to have access to the news, to everything in a moment, in our palm or in our television. Why not? Television is the biggest screen. It's a great opportunity to relax, to be in your living room and to have the access to the content. I mean, it's like if you were saying or thinking when cinema was saying that television will kill cinema. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen.
It didn't happen, it created more choice.
That's it.
Okay, you raised news specifically. So is there a difference in approach or a different requirement from different genres of content? Is there anything specific to note about news and how it's consumed, maybe more live?
I mean, sports and news and breaking news is still something that's going to be consumed, you know, on
linear,
TV, yeah, and
I
linear.
guess so.
And breaking news by nature, if you watch it 2 days later, it's kind of, you know. So I think that's still always going to have a place, and I think that's an important piece. And I do think millennials also, you know, they like news, you know, and so they get their news and they consume news, and so and sports. So I think, you know, and you mentioned the younger generations, but I mean, I also watch concerts in the coffee shop, you know, so I think there's an element of having that access,
Yeah,
but I
that's it.
do think there's still a place for TV that in that space.
Okay.
So I think that we should be looking at this, the new world of data and technology that's available to us as media owners, as advertisers, as consumers. We should be looking at this as an opportunity, really, because I think young audiences have always tried to avoid watching TV with their parents, for example. They just never had the choice to watch it elsewhere. So, you know, there's been a lot of talk about linear TV, young advertisers, young consumers not watching as much TV. But the fact is, they're actually watching more TV. They just are not watching it in the traditional way. So, if we don't harness that power, then what will happen is disruptors will move in, such as Amazon in the UK, such as Netflix. We see Google, Facebook and Apple all investing in content now. And the reality is that they've got big, deep pockets and they can afford to take a risk. So they will keep going and they will keep pushing until they make something work. Netflix in the UK and probably worldwide wasn't really a big concern until they did House of Cards. When are Facebook Watch going to have their House of Card moment? That probably isn't coming it's probably coming quite soon, I'd say. So we can either put our heads in the sand and go, TV's great, best content ever, or we can embrace it and use what's really good about TV broadcasters. They produce fantastic content, but get it out there and available to consumers. If there's an ad proposition that we can make work, let's do that. But then make it easy for advertisers to navigate that world. So that's either through ease of buy, but more importantly, it's the best data that we can get within the commercial restraints that we have. We do understand that some organisations do not want to give ground to another organisation. That's perfectly fine. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. And I think sometimes from a UK point of view, sometimes there is a bit of an inertia that's caused by these threats and reverting to the status quo. But as a cautionary tale, that didn't work for the print industry in the UK. So why do we think it's going to work again for broadcasting industry as we currently stand? I just think that we need to embrace it. Otherwise, if we don't, Google, Facebook, they will come and eat everyone's lunch.
Okay.
They changed the definition of TV too, so maybe it's not a TV anymore.
Google changed the
Well,
definition?
no, I mean, they're going to change it. I mean, if it's SVOD and AVOD and OTT and connected TV, like, what's a TV anymore? I don't know.
The point is that I'm not sure here in UK, but at least in Spain, if you think on Netflix or if you think on HBO or other OTTs, they don't have the reach that television linear that we have. It's impossible. I mean, even if something is it's a premiere on Netflix, they don't get the repercussion that you got on a television linear premiere. We've got that example in Spain. We made La Casa de Papel, which I don't know how is it in English, sorry. But Netflix bought the series. So they did such a big marketing campaign that everyone thought that La Casa de Papel was coming from Netflix. And in fact, if you compare the numbers on our premiere on Atresmedia, it was a lot of consume, nothing compared with Netflix, because they don't have the reach in a moment, in a minute. If you ask anyone, you really want to see if television is effective? You want me to put your brand and say a bad thing on the news? You don't want that, because you know it's going to be a trending topic all over the world. That's the point.
Okay, so you would distinguish Netflix and the SVOD walled garden world from the social media. How do you see the social media?
Social media, that's what I was saying. I mean, young people loves to be on Twitter, on Instagram, because they are consuming sometimes or showing what they are doing. But the truth is that it's not such a big show. I mean, it's not like the big reach, and most of the time they are commenting something that they are seeing on television. So the point is that you need to merge maybe two worlds and to consider social media as a second screen while you are watching linear or while you are watching a VOD chapter of the last show, I don't know, something like that.
Okay, so what do you think, Brandon? Social media and TV together? What's the role of social media?
I don't know, maybe I'm one of those young people on social, tweeting away. I took a picture once for a presentation I did of my family, and it was me, my daughter, and my son. She's 14, he's 16, and I'm not. And I was watching TV, and my daughter was just sitting there on Snapchat, and my son was on his computer, and neither one of them could care less what was on the TV. But we were still kind of having that, I guess, family moment. So I think it's, in a sense, someday it'll be like just VR boxes, and we'll just be sitting there going.
But all together.
Yeah. But I think it's a tricky thing.
Maybe it wasn't they so.
Yeah, maybe. That's true. But I think it's tricky. Like social plays a part, and I don't think TV and social is taken away from TV. I think consumption of content and media is going up, but TV's kind of staying pretty steady too. So it just means I think you said we're consuming more, right? So we're spending more time. So social's not taking away from anything. It's just adding to. I'm not totally convinced that it's adding in correlation with each other. I don't think they're working together all the time. Sometimes they do, but I think they all play a part of it.
So I think that social's probably adding to some of the TV experiences. I think you're seeing a resurgence in the value of live and big broadcasts as well. So Bodyguard in the UK, everyone had to watch that live because otherwise they go onto social media and they'd find out what's happened in the last episode. Yeah. So it's that water cooler moment. It's changed where the water cooler is. The water cooler's on your phone. Now you're talking to your friends about it and you're doing it immediately. And I think that's actually making the TV experience more powerful, more valuable. And not every older audience is probably less engaged in that social media, but if we are producing content that is more talked about, when I say we, if media owners are producing content that's more engaging, more talks about in terms of the live experience, what is going to happen next, let's talk about it. That's really going to be, that's harnessing those social platforms and not allowing those social platforms to sort of go and move into a space where they don't currently have the right to play. So we talked about the TV screen. The TV screen is the biggest and best digital screen in your house. And I think consumers don't think of it as TV or digital, they just think of content.
Right.
And if I'm talking from a panel of one in terms of myself, I will always search for the best screen to watch content on. So if I'm at home, I want to watch the big TV, but if I'm on a train, I'll use a tablet. If I'm walking around, I'll have a mobile, but I won't be watching.
Isn't it also about time that if you just want to check breaking news, it's come a push to your phone? It's no problem to watch that there, but if you are going to see something 2 hours, you are more sort of keen. So I think it's just, if you have a half an hour show, I don't know if I would sort of turn the TV on.
Well,
I
then
might have it on the
maybe there's an argument.
tablet instead. Yeah.
Sorry, Malin. Maybe there's an argument then that actually the television, I want some arguments from the panel, but the television is a better medium because it's more engaged, leaned back, people have maybe chosen to watch something specifically, although I can't stop watching CNN when it's on in the background.
Me neither.
All the things I've learned, George Michael dying.
And now you can log on to social and talk
See
to
what
the
other-
actual
yeah.
anchors on the TV, so you can actually have that interaction if you're looking for it.
But
as a plug.
so TV, yeah, okay. So television, 70 inches, 50 inches, surround sound. We haven't talked about sound. It's the perfect place, isn't it, for premium content? So maybe this is a way, we haven't really talked about premium content on this panel yet, but there is some amazing content produced by U3 and acquired by U3 on the stage. So surely, Martin, don't your advertisers want to be amongst the premium content, adjacent to the premium content?
Absolutely, they want to be in the most engaging content where the consumer is. So, yeah, I'm not saying at any point that I don't think TV content is not valuable. I think it's hugely valuable. But we do live in a world where we have big digital disruptors who are providing lots of cases, data-driven cases, why their platforms are working for advertisers, and we, in a TV world, don't necessarily have that. We don't have the ability to turn around and go, we advertise this here and then go, actually look at all this sales. We've got some anecdotal evidence and anecdotal research, but not a sort of persistent sort of measurement, which regardless of whether the digital disruptors can actually do it, they have done very well at selling that dream. So look, I'm banging the drum for better measurement. It's better data that helps us make a decision, because otherwise, what will happen is someone else will come in and go, well, actually, if you spend, £1 with us, you're going to get a £7 return on investment. And if we don't have those arguments from the traditional area, then it's going to be really, really difficult to defend budgets. And it shouldn't be a case of defending budgets. It should be a case of just making the right choice. And I sometimes don't feel we're equipped to. We have the right amount of data to make that choice, so we have to fill gaps ourselves within agencies. And beating back to my right, that's my original point that I was making.
But I think it is premium content, and we're sort of struggling every day to make it even better. So I think we should sort of demand premium advertising as well. And if we think of the possibility to make it more narrow targeting and smaller advertisers is coming in, it's likely that it's going to be even worse in the ad breaks. And we might just change the way we charge clients. We maybe should charge them for the people they force away from the ad breaks because they can't stand it, instead of, so you get paid if you get more people in. So, I mean, we have to change. We have to talk about it. Otherwise, I think we won't be here.
I think there's also interesting thing about mood and like mood matters too. And I think in premium environments, and that's something you'll never be able to measure, and you will have to kind of plug. You know, you can try. I mean, I guess if you're getting a push notification on your phone, might not be the right time for an advertiser to jump in and you know. But if you're in a comfortable environment and you're on the big screen and there's great content and then there's great ads with it, that's probably going to be significantly more effective than just a crap ad and some crap content. Sorry, if it's, but I think mood and environment that really matters, and I think that's where premium environments are really, really important in that case.
Yeah, so mood, environment, content adjacency. It actually came up in the Future of TV Advertising in Manchester conference, so I was lucky enough to attend that. And one of the questions to one of the panels was, is the creative from the creative agencies matching up to the content? So I'm sure we all remember real standout adverts from when we were growing up. I know nostalgia is a thing at the moment, but there's some of those adverts, especially the Nescafe with the sequences, the Hamlet adverts.
I'm from a different country. We had.
What did you have?
So my favorite one was when an old lady threw a tire through a window and it smashed, and it was like a tire store commercial. And I still remember it, thinking it was so random. But
so
we didn't have any of that in the UK.
Sounds great. So we're talking about like real world-class creative. We're very proud of the creative that we have in the UK.
That wasn't world-class.
That wasn't.
No.
That was just memorable. But it looked good on the big screen.
That's right.
It wouldn't work on a mobile phone.
That's right.
Okay.
It was not on black and white.
Yeah, there's still a lot of people with black and white telly in the UK. So I think we can see the benefits of the big screen. We can see the benefits of premium content. What about data? So you raised data earlier, Martin, but surely connected TV gives the perfect combination of this big screen, fantastic sound, some elements of measurement that maybe we can't get in the UK or other countries. What about the application of data? So very specifically, what about programmatic? We've got quite far through the panel without mentioning programmatic advertising. So the IAB Europe has a programmatic trading committee that I am part of. And I read the Zenith report that said in 2019, 65% of all digital media around the world will be traded programmatically. So what do you think of that? Isn't it amazing that we can combine the big screen with programmatic advertising?
I think that if that was true, if that we can combine big screen with programmatic advertising, that would be a big benefit. We've talked about complexity of buying across the many different sales points at this point. I think if there was DSP-enabled buying across the telly in that VOD environment, I'm not expecting that we're going to get to linear anytime soon, but that would be also another piece, because actually, clients are actually asking for things to be done more quickly, more flexibly, and something like a programmatic, an automated buy that is flexible is something that they would want. But then with that should be more effective. So therefore, that might be a way of revaluing, arguably a heavily commoditized set of inventory. I'm talking about linear TV here. So yeah, programmatic, great. But I think what's actually going to power that programmatic now, if I take us back to the UK, linear TV is very well measured through a panel of 5,000 homes, 5,200 homes, right? Great. Everything else is one-to-one measured or one-to-household measured, which doesn't have the demographics, but we can see if that's been served or not. And it's how do those two marry together? When the consumer's turning on the TV screen, when I'm turning on the TV screen, I go to my Sky queue, I might watch linear, or I might watch something on demand. But to me, the value in that side is there's no difference for me.
Okay.
So how do we marry those two up? There is no connected
You're welcome
data.
to Sweden, you can come and visit, because we need some help to sort of keep on developing this.
We can sort that out.
Yeah.
But that's actually going to be one of the drivers, actually. Connected TV, in theory, we should be able to measure everything on the TV screen. But we come back to there's commercial sensitivities around that, which, again, I understand. But at the same time, if someone's going to say to me that you should buy something for 10 times more than it costs on the linear TV, it's going to be hard for us to justify that in a scaled way without having some sort of back-end measurement. That's just fact. And when I talk about and that measurement, unified measurement, leads to the ability to actually look at the effects on outcomes. That's what our clients are asking for. They want to know if they spend £100,000 in this area, how's that going to drive their business? And at the moment, it might. I'm being quite sort of aggressive there, but if we have better data and data solutions that allow us to evaluate it, that's how you can fight off the threats of the digital disruptors.
Okay, so
could I just
yeah,
be a bit sort of, because we have quite a few examples from other medias where you have tried the data and you have sort of not impressed very much on me when you retarget and you take all data, using it all back again. And I mean, we have so many bad examples. So how could we sort of jump into leaving the bad behavior around data and use it in a more sort of, I don't want another GDPR, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's down to everybody to not misbehave with the data.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not a reason to do something because we're afraid that some rogue operators will come and do something that is not consumer friendly. I think it's incumbent on us to not allow that to happen. So as media owners, I think, you know, if we're there contracting services out to a rogue operator, then we need to shut that down. You know, as agencies, we shouldn't be encouraging that practice. Precisely the reason something like GDPR came in is because of things like that, people following and ads following you around the internet. So I don't think that's a reason to sort of not open it up because, as I say, you know, the other companies that are not traditional TV broadcasters have this data in abundance, and they are using that.
And they are in quite big trouble around it as well.
They are.
I don't want to repeat the mistakes. I would like to
I'm not saying that you
find
should.
another way.
I'm not saying that you should. I think we can learn from the mistakes and do something better.
Yeah.
Isn't though, like, can't you still look at the success of the company regardless? I mean, so I'm a big fan of data and insight, so don't misinterpret. But there are things there are things you can't measure. Great content, great mood, right time, all these things. The perfect scenario happened, and the business sold a product or built a loyal customer, or someone came back 100 days later with brand recognition and bought a product. We'll never be able to measure that. So companies, I mean, you know, they used to do isolated A/B tests, say, well, we'll do this and see uplift and then extrapolate that across. And so there's always going to be, and it's good news, there's always jobs for us marketers, right? Yeah. But there is an element of, at the end of the day, it's best for the bottom line of the business. Just because we can measure things like viewability or click-through rates or someday we'll be able to measure if you're in the room and your eyeballs are on the screen, but it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter to measure viewability or to measure
it doesn't matter,
click-through
right?
rate. In fact, you don't want to meet a CTR on a television device.
Not saying you said that, but I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, the brand needs to be better and stronger in a better position because they sold more product.
Yeah.
That's all. And if you do clever marketing with great content and an intelligent approach across all platforms to people in the right place, right time, whether it's TV or digital, and the business grows, then we win, right?
Yeah.
We may not be able to measure a lot of that.
I do think if you look at the average tenure of a CMO, it's 2 years. So they're under huge pressure to justify where they're spending. And if they can go to their finance director and they're saying, I've got 100 grand to spend on TV, and they go, how much is that going to drive our business? Well, in the long term, it might drive our business.
Well, of course, you can always try to forget about television, but then I will promise you that they go back.
I'm not saying that they should.
I mean, not you personally.
I'm not saying that they should, but I'm thinking we should enable ultimately the customers of all of us on the stage are advertisers, they're our customers. So we need to enable them. If we're not enabling them, then we're going to lose. It doesn't matter whether we should or shouldn't. We're just going to lose. So I think we need to, enable those conversations with a CMO and a CFO to justify the budgets. And it's amazing. Even the smallest piece of data that will help justify it actually goes a long way. So we need to do more of that, make it more persistent and consistent. Now that could be just making something as simple but really, really difficult as making a unified measurement system. So where we can see how many people actually viewed an ad on a telly screen. That would be extremely powerful. We can't do that in the UK.
Maybe they're only
Totally
staying in their
understand.
jobs for 2 years because they are looking short term. I don't know.
But that's
Maybe
but that is a fact
wanted
we
to
have
debate,
to
we
deal
can-
with.
I know,
We
I'm
have
loving
to
it.
embrace. It's
So,
a fact
yeah.
we have to embrace. That's not going to change, is it?
It's not going to. So who changed it? Did the digital giants change the rules or try to change the rules? Why did we get so short term? Just because you can measure digital, does that mean that we should all think like that?
I don't think we should all think like that necessarily, but that is a knock-on effect. If it's measurable and it's digital, you've got to just, not digital, if it's measurable, you've seen an outcome, then that's a justification.
I think
Yeah.
Google search,
Unfortunately-
when Google search came out, I mean, that was it. You'd expect a 6x on spend, and that was like the first time marketers say, I'll spend 100 and make 600, and that was, so now they started thinking all digital became that way. And they started losing that kind of top funnel stuff.
Yeah, well, I will say when I worked at a search agency many years ago, our search worked really well when we combined it with the TV schedules. So obviously,
Day parting, remember that word?
yeah, but we're going back a while. I have to, at this point, I'm reminded of a panel I saw recently where Ian Armstrong was on the panel, formerly at Jaguar Land Rover and at Honda before that. And he said that under his tenure at Honda, he stopped advertising on the back pages of the Sunday glossy magazines because they couldn't measure it. And he believes that Honda lost some of its magic, was his words, thereby. So something to be aware of. We shouldn't all be so short-term, maybe.
I agree.
Now, Raquel, you have programmatic and audience in your title, so I know you're an expert in this area. Can you say something about programmatic advertising, the application of data, and how that's working in Spain?
Oh, you mean on connected TV? Yeah. Well, I think that there's a difficult combination trying to measure connected TV in the same way that television is being measured, or in the other way to try to measure connected TV in the way that digital is being measured. And I've got a lot of mails coming from the trading teams in the agencies telling me, oh, great, you already have the connected TV inventory. I want to buy it. And I said, great, let's do a deal. Can I measure it? Which is your viewability? What is the completion rate? And I said, viewability, you cannot measure viewability on a TV device. And they say, then how I know that they are viewing it? It's TV. You can't do anything with it. I cannot change it. I cannot make it, smaller. It's not possible to. You need to change your mind. So I guess that it's also an education that I have to do with the advertisers and also with the agencies, because if we want this business to grow and to be there, we all need to be sure what we are buying and what we are offering. And in the same way, is it possible to do programmatic on connected TV, or will it be possible on linear TV? Yes, it will be possible, but we also need to be sure that advertisers, agencies, technologies, everyone in the market knows that not everything is allowed on TV, mainly because it's premium content, right? So I need specifications very clear. It can't be wherever on TV, and I think that some advertisers doesn't think on that clearly, because it's really easy. It's such easy to put something on AdSense, Google, YouTube, or on Facebook that they think that it may be the same. So the question is, do they really want that this is the same on TV, on linear TV, or on connected TV? I don't think so. We need, and maybe what we can get advantage of is about the data on connected TV, and maybe we could focus on best advertisers for each audience, to really do a good address to the person that you want to buy your product, your service, whatever you are doing, and also to adapt the creatives in a way, because I know it's very expensive to do TV, it's very expensive to do TV advertising, but maybe on digital they can give a turnaround and put maybe 10-second ads or something like that, or more addressed to women, to young people, or whatever.
So is that an opportunity for creative agencies, do you think, to do more versions, more dynamic creative?
More dynamic, why not? And also more interactive once we got maybe in a few years or so. We can also work on that. It's we need to be a little bit of imagination power.
Excellent, creativity agency of the agencies. So let's not forget that this white paper launches tomorrow. Connected TV, really, it's quite a new area. Martin, your job is 6 months old?
Yeah.
So this is an emerging area. We've at the IAB Europe, we've created this white paper about this new topic. You're talking about search. You started your career at Yahoo. You were working in search at AOL. So that's now old new media, 10 years, 15 years old new media. So this is a very emerging area with connected TV. So I would expect it would grow. I think I led the research project that we did with MTM last year, where we sat down with all the broadcasters in the 5 biggest countries, the TV buying countries across Europe, and talked to them about connected TV. The UK was the most advanced and the highest ad revenues were coming through it. Spain was really nascent, but we've got...
Yes, I guess that 25% of our inventory is on connected TV.
Wow.
And we have just launched it with the SpotX, also the programmatic connected TV, 2 months ago or so. So
it's all very new.
It's very new, but it's also very and highly demanded. Not on the direct side of the campaigns, we are already on it. So, but it's really difficult to move clients to that connected TV because they can't just deliver their campaigns on desktop because they want to measure everything. So they are dying themselves because they want viewability, and that's only possible on desktop. So they are losing the rest of the users.
So maybe digital's losing in that regard.
But our brains work in very mysterious ways, and sometimes a 1-second ad can be as powerful as a 10-second ad, or sometimes being out of the room and hearing something. Like our brains pick up things a lot quicker than actually we realize. So viewability could be a whole nother.
Let's do a whole other topic. We also.
So I think we need to rely on some of the stats that you showed up there. That was shown up there earlier. 98% view-through rate. That's an immensely view completion rate. Immensely powerful stat. We are seeing those same sort of stats from our connected TV buying. So that's an immensely powerful stat. We don't have that in the standard TV measurement. And a view, as defined by the IAB, is 50% for 2 seconds. So we should be pushing those stats out a lot more aggressively, because that is the value. I think that you can then turn around and go, well, is viewability the metric? We need to be pushing out an alternative then, because I agree, TV screens they aren't actually viewable.
To reinvent a new one?
I'm not saying invent a new one, just say, well, this is the value. This is it. It's, you want it to be 50% at 2, great, let's put a tag in there that somehow can justify that. But we already know it's viewable at that point. But it's actually the experience of the consumer it's got to be a good experience because they're getting 98% view completion rates.
Viewability doesn't always directly correlate to value, right? Like, so if you have a high completion rate,
yeah,
but the brand was if for an advertiser and the brand was prevalent and presented a good way at an earlier stage, then the completion rate may be meaningless, right? Like, so
it may be, yeah.
You still want. I mean, we tend to have a high completion rate, but it is, and you have to kind of position that brand in the right place. But it doesn't always equal value, right? It is about making sure you're in the right place, right time when they're in that moment. So.
To the right audience.
But I agree with you. You should plug that stat.
Having the whole ad scene that's got to be an advantage for an advertiser. They don't make ads, 30-second ads to see the first 2 seconds.
But isn't it the way of being transparent of what TV is? It's cleaning the market, because so many claims they are TV today, and they don't have the complete, that we could prove to have. So it's just, if you want to be TV, it means that you have to deliver on completed view instead of
or time
starting.
Right?
Yeah.
But even better if you could have the TV advert for dog food going just to dog owners. Wouldn't that be even better with the high completion rate, the data behind it? We need to take your model of measurement for Spain and then...
unless my dog just died or I'm just about to buy a dog.
Yeah,
and
you want dog food ads to go to
it.
people who don't have dogs, because dog food owners aren't going to change their food yet, right?
With the power of good
You
creative.
have to be like in people's mind when they're thinking about getting a dog, and be like, try this food.
Okay, there was some good points made earlier on today
Not
as well.
that one.
No, well that's obviously
that's
a
right,
great
yeah.
point. But an additional great point was, you want to make sure that the neighbours know that what your car is worth, even though they're not going to buy that car themselves.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So you need to invest in the brand. So because otherwise, what is the value of the brand if people don't know, even though they don't own it?
But just about when we're talking about dogs,
Let's go back to dogs.
Dogs
my
and cars.
dog
audience likes dogs.
insurance company sent me a note this autumn that it was my dog's birthday. The problem was that she died 2 months previous that. And if the insurance company doesn't know that, as I claim them for money for the dog, that makes me sort of be a bit concerned about data.
Yeah.
That's personalization gone wrong.
It's gone
Totally.
completely wrong. It was.
That's
Yeah.
GDPR. So maybe you didn't opt in. So,
So just to add,
Touch on that.
I know.
just to add one more thing.
Okay, yeah, go.
Dogs.
We talk, we're sort of touching on a full market addressable buy. We've heard a number of times today of how TV is, it's the premium quality environment for content. I think we'll be in a world where there'll be a bit of both within a TV screen. I personally don't think we'll ever get to a full market addressable TV solution for anyone. I don't think we should necessarily. The power of TV. In the UK, you've got big England football games where it's watched by tens of millions of people. There's an inherent power for a brand to be harnessing that. But then we have a lot of other inventory which is watched by 5,000 people, which may not even be rated. So therefore, the media owner doesn't get any payment for that. So I think there is an opportunity to harness these lower rating spots, the mid-tier spots where there's a programme that's on 5 times a week. That might be a premium quality environment, but it's not necessarily going to push your brand further, as opposed to something like the X Factor final or Britain's Got Talent or Get Me Out of Here, which has been doing fantastic ratings. Those are the things that advertisers buy into TV for. But then there's everything else where there's surely got to be an opportunity for addressable and programmatic in that sort of area.
We call that job security.
So that's all great shows mentioned there. Saturday night highlights. So, so would anybody disagree with that? Or offer a counterpoint?
I think you're saying that there's still going to be holes to fill, right? There's still a lot of things we have to, and I think strategy and really thinking holistically and starting what you're trying to accomplish back, it's come full circle, right? And just making sure you do that no matter where it is. Great content, great environment, right people, right time. That whole cliche we hear at every media conference.
Okay, fantastic. Great point to finish on. So I think we're hearing whole market addressability is never going to happen. It doesn't matter. Brands should be adjacent to premium content. That could be connected TV. It could be targeted. It could be, especially in Spain, doing really well and delivering great results for advertisers. But you still need the benefits of big brands, linear campaigns. We didn't get onto live and live OTT. We saw great results this year with the World Cup and also the Olympics. So maybe that's the next panel. I think that we're all in conclusion that we can't wait for this white paper tomorrow from the IAB Europe.
Can't wait.
Connected TV, very interesting topic, and also it'll be the topic of a conference in May next year organised by the guys at MediaTel. So sorry we didn't have any time for questions. We've got flashing light, but we can all do questions over a glass of wine or beer. So please join me.
Someone can ask a question.
Well, okay,
We'll drink.
who would like to ask a question?
Maybe that ruins
Everybody
the whole
wants a drink now.
I think you
Let's
mentioned
do
alcohol.
the questions
The beer.
over the beers.
Okay, fair
Please join me in thanking my panellists, Brandon, Raquel, Martin and Malin.